My Action Research Project by Taylor DeSantis. My problem statement. Throughout the field of education, there are many approaches to teaching that are used across a variety of school boards. Team teaching is an approach to teaching that you hear thrown around from time to time, but many do not know what it entails or its impacts on teaching and students. Team teaching fosters such opportunities for teachers and allows teachers to share experiences together within one classroom. I have learned from my time at Brock, through my experiences in my undergrad program as an early childhood educator, and through my teaching placements, that teachers learn so much from colleagues. Every school is filled with talented, inspiring teachers that students and teachers could all learn from. Many teachers collaborate by sharing lesson plans, ideas around assessment or differentiation, or by explaining what works and what doesn't work for them in the classroom. Some definitions. The two that really stood out in this project were team teaching. So teachers plan, deliver, and teach a large group of students together as a team. Here, the teachers are seen as partners. It allows students to learn from both teachers, whom are seen as experts in particular subjects, and collaboration. Collaboration is when teachers are able to share, support, plan, implement, and discuss various different aspects of teaching with each other. For example, they may share lesson plans and/or ideas around assessment and differentiation, which ultimately improves both teacher and student performance and success. So my research question is, how can team teaching enrich my teaching practice as a primary junior teacher and student learning? Team teaching is an educational framework and model that is beginning to be implemented into teaching classrooms across the globe. The effectiveness of team teaching is widely debated and can be seen as a difficult task for some teachers, as there are underlying perceptions of how well it works within the classroom for teacher practice and student learning. This literature review will aim to examine and present various research studies to find out how team teaching in a classroom can enrich teacher practice and student learning. Based on the research conducted from a wide variety of studies, research has shown that the implementation of team teaching within a classroom environment will in fact enrich the practice of teachers and student learning. The study, Co-Teaching in a Mainstream Post-Primary Mathematics Classroom, has found that the effectiveness of team teaching is dependent on the approach teachers take in implementing the team teaching framework in their classroom. The study concluded that the team teaching model is effective in enriching teacher practice and student learning through the lens of mathematics. Since it is found impactful in the mathematics sector, it can be argued that it could be just as effective in other various sections of the curriculum. According to Hurd and Wilbacher, and Turin and Bayer, team teaching can be seen as an impactful educational framework when implemented into the classroom for teacher practice and the learning of students. Both studies examined how teachers can grow professionally through the practice of team teaching and concluded that it would improve instructional lessons, assessment, lesson preparation, inclusivity for all students, attentiveness of students during instruction, and make teacher workload more manageable. Scranton examined the collaborative team teaching model to determine if the framework can reach all students and further improve student learning. It was concluded that the research that the two educators involved in team teaching approach often exhibit similar values, beliefs, and perceptions about student learning. With this in mind, a study was conducted by Saeed, Madasser, and Adakil, where results showed that students who had the experience of learning delivered by team teaching approach exhibited a higher satisfaction level, where about 77.5% of students stated that team teaching is interesting and effective within the classroom. Ultimately, implementing the team teaching approach in a classroom can enrich teacher practice and student learning. Additionally, all of the research explored how teachers can grow as professionals when their practice is enriched with the opportunity to foster a team teaching approach in the classroom, while improving and enhancing student learning overall. We'll now talk about my research plan. So one of the data sources is observations. Including observations as part of my data collection and my research will allow me to show what is happening within the classroom with either particular students or with the class as a whole. Observations capture behaviors, attitudes, performance, interactions, understandings, and knowledge of both students and teachers. In this case, I would conduct observations of both students and teachers in the classroom, both primary and junior level, where different forms of team teaching are currently already in place. While I observe, I would record anecdotal notes of what I'm seeing and hearing from the teachers and students. I will also use video recordings to support my written observations so that I will be able to refer to them at a later time to inform my observations that I made. I will also use semi-structured interviews. Conducting interviews will allow a researcher to develop the ideas, knowledge, perspective, reactions, and feelings of the participants in a study. In this case, I will be conducting interviews with both students and teachers to uncover their feelings and perspectives of team teaching within the classroom. The interview will be in a structured format where the participants will respond to a variety of pre-developed questions provided by the researcher. Some examples that I would ask are, how do you feel about team teaching? How do you think a team teaching approach has enriched your practice as a teacher or learning as a student? And in your opinion, do you think team teaching or a regular form of teaching? Why do you prefer this? And my other last source of data would be teacher journaling. Teachers will individually respond to a variety of prompts provided by the researcher. Each journal will be a maximum of approximately 1 page in length. Providing participants with prompts to respond to about team teaching will ensure that their entries are focused and useful. Journaling about team teaching will encourage teachers to respond accurately and honestly, as they are not required to speak orally about the subject. However, with this in mind, this can become an issue for confidentiality reasons. Since the response is written, it is important for the researcher to remember the participant privacy. As a researcher, I would consider all journal entries by teachers important and necessary for my data collection. Triangulation, validity, and reliability. Triangulation is evident in this research study as I will be collecting data through 3 different resources at one time. Validity will also be evident in this research study as I'm hoping to receive similar, if not the same, results from a variety of different sources. The data I collect will also be reliable as the findings will be provided from a wide range of participants, both students and teachers who are currently learning in this environment. Observations will provide me with what exactly is happening within the classroom, which will increase the validity of my study. Interviews will provide me with the perceptions and feelings that both students and teachers have about team teaching, or journal entries written by teachers will uncover and discover the valuable information that teachers can provide on the topic, including interviews and journal entries will both increase validity and reliability, as even though their prompts will be provided, teachers and students will have the ability to respond creatively and analytically. Participants and setting. For this research study, there will be a variety of participants and individuals involved. In this study, the participants will include both students from primary and junior grade levels, and teachers from a variety of different grade levels, ranging from kindergarten to grade 6. The students will have a wide variety of academic levels, educational needs, and abilities, as well as being different ages. The teachers in this study will range from various experiences, from new beginning teachers and experienced teachers in the classroom. The study will encourage students and teachers from all over the province of Ontario to participate, of course with their support of their principal or administrative team. However, because students will be underage, consent forms will be provided for parents of students to ensure their participation. Ethical considerations. I will ensure confidentiality while conducting my research through various data collection sources by replacing students' and teachers' names with synonyms. So, for example, student A, student B, teacher 1, etc. This will ensure that the privacy of both students and teachers are respected and considered. With this being said, I feel that discussing this with the students and teachers, especially teachers, will encourage them to share more freely and honestly when sharing, answering, and responding to observations, questions, in the interviews and journals. As teachers write journal entries, their responses will also have their corresponding name instead of their real name. The interviews will be recorded for research purposes, but only the voiceover will be recorded, no faces of students or teachers. It is also important to give students and teachers the option to participate, while also providing the option for them to remove themselves from the study if they choose to without any penalty. All information that is shared will be kept in a confidential private space. When the information is ready to be disposed of, it will be shredded to ensure the privacy of the participants. To begin obtaining the data, I will get approval form from school boards and principals, as well as parents, students, and teachers. This is my timeline chart. So observations will be done through anecdotal records and video recordings, which will be done bi-weekly through different days of the week at different times from September to March. Semi-structured interviews, both teacher to student and teacher to teacher. Month-end interviews conducted with the teachers and students separately, one-on-one from October to February. And lastly, teacher journaling written entries, bi-monthly from September to April, 4 in total, all maximum 1 page in length. And they will be responding to the questions that I ask. Data analysis. As I'm collecting data through my research, I will begin by analyzing the findings. Observations will be compiled together and saved to USB. The findings from the structured interviews will be recorded on a spreadsheet using the question-answer format. As for teacher journaling, I would compile and sort the data based on the prompt I provided for the month. The data will be analyzed by the trends I notice in the data. It will be evaluated based on the criteria I set for each of the data collection types. So this is one of my first references. So this article examined co-teaching model within the primary mathematics classroom. The focus of this article was the potential effective use of the co-teaching not only for all students but also for students with special education needs within the classroom. And this one also explained that various forms of collaborative teaching have been used for education. They hypothesized that co-teaching within the classroom often involves some level of planning as a team, teaching as a team, assessing as a team, where special attention is given to curriculum and differentiated instruction. This article found that team teaching has typically been found to improve the engagement and learning of students that overall enhance the quality and experience of teaching. They conducted a study that involved students rating their experience in 3 different levels, from high satisfaction, moderate satisfaction, and low satisfaction. They concluded that students who had the experience of being delivered teaching in a team teaching environment had a higher satisfaction, where about 77.5% stated that they liked the model. This article found that co-teaching is becoming more increasingly popular collaborative strategy that schools are implementing to see if it meets the needs of all students and whether or not it improves teacher instructional practices. It conducted research to study co-teaching in the primary grade levels through 3 different data sources: surveys, interviews, and observations, so very similar like mine. The research concluded that co-teaching exhibited a positive perception, as similarities typically exist between the 2 educators through their teaching values, beliefs, characteristics, and approaches to teaching overall. This article examined teachers' views on the co-teaching model and its effectiveness in the primary classroom. The purpose of the study was to find a solution to crowded classrooms, how to make instructional lessons more efficient, how to properly care for inclusive students, how to maintain students' attention, support students who experience difficulties, and overall improve the education for all students in a setting. The study involved 12 primary teachers and was conducted in an interview-based approach, where the research concluded that co-teaching framework will make classroom management more effective, increase the quality of instructional lessons, make teachers' workload more manageable, and can ensure that students who often fall behind in lessons don't fall through the cracks and are able to learn at a pace suitable for their needs. So just as a closure, designing this action research study would support my knowledge of teaching and my overall teaching practice. As research has shown, the team teaching approach within the classroom promotes student learning and enriches teacher practice. It enhances interactions and collaboration between students and teachers by creating a sense of community within the classroom, allows for a greater evaluation of student achievement, and further supports students with needs or exceptionalities. Conducting my action research on team teaching will refine and strengthen my teacher practice as a primary junior teacher.